Hi, all. Here we are back together again. What I'd like to focus on today is a word that I hear often in many aspects of life. The word is commitment. Simplistically, commitment means for me, I focus on something, I make a decision with regard to it, and I adjust my behavior to mesh with the focus on whatever it is that I'm making the commitment to. I commit to my relationship. I commit to my work. I commit to a committee which is going to work on something. But in that commitment, inherent in it, is an investment that I am saying that I am going to make to cause that commitment to be fulfilled. The reason that thought is in my head is because in the past 2 weeks, three different women have come to mind, and the word commitment is relevant to all three of them. Each of the three women has lost at least 70 pounds, 70 pounds. And the thing about every single one of them is they were skeptical when they first walked into the office. They invested in themselves and lost at least 70 pounds. What's similar about all of them is when they had reached their goal, they were all quite scared. And the reason they were frightened was because of the fact that they had made this self investment and couldn't believe they would be able to keep it off. All of them gave me one story or another as to the reasons they would not be able to maintain that weight loss. All three are back on the program. And all three failed to keep the weight off. But there is a difference between one of those three women and the other two. Upon questioning, all of them come up with the same answer. Dr. Schwartz, when I reached goal, I cannot describe how good I felt. I liked getting dressed and looking in the mirror. I liked telling other people how much weight I had lost, and I carried with me before pictures so that I could put them up next to myself and say, can you imagine this is how I used to look? The feeling was wonderful. It filled me. I talked about it, I thought about it, I shared it with people, and it affected every facet of my life because I was so happy with myself that if I behaved not happy about myself, it bothered me. This was the same story from all three. How did you put the weight back then? I asked. And the answer was, for a short period of time, I really watched myself. But then I didn't have a program, I didn't have a plan, and the weight seemed to come back little by little, and all three were back on the program. Two of them are struggling. The third is not. And so I'm going to first talk about the third woman and then go back to the first two. The third woman came in and said to me, Dr. Schwartz, how do I get to feel what I felt when I was first on the program? I've lost that feeling, and the reason I want to lose weight is because it's one of the few times in my life where I felt so wonderful. I kept thinking about myself and it affected my behavior. Now, with her, I immediately put her on the magic protocol. And I said to her, your commitment has to do with using the three steps and acknowledging the fact that you are strong enough, wonderful enough, enough in love with yourself that when you admit, breathe, substitute, you acknowledge that you're the one in control, you're the one doing it, and ask yourself, how does it feel? She's been extremely successful, and I will come back to her in just a moment. The other two ladies basically said the same thing. They wanted to recapture how they felt when they first lost all the weight and the experiences that they had because people were behaving towards them differently when they first took off the weight. But as the feedback began to diminish, their commitment to themselves and keeping the weight off also began to weaken. We talked, and this past week, I had the two women who are not at that point on the magic protocol in, and before I put on their beads, we had a discussion. All they could talk about was the fact that they felt deprivation, that they wanted to cheat, were controlling themselves for the most part, giving in now and then, but controlling themselves for the most part. But the overall feeling was of being pressed from the outside by their own feelings and their own wanting to lose the weight, but thinking often about what they were missing. The key to that is my last statement, what they were missing. All overweight people who are not have a physiological reason, some medical condition that causes them to be overweight. If they are just normal people and are overweight, they are overweight because they use food for comfort and they use food to escape. When they escape, they have guilt and remorse, and it strengthens their feeling of deprivation because it becomes a vicious cycle. In my conversation in the last week, I put them on the magic protocol. And here is what I instructed them. They are to use the magic protocol, and every single evening before they went to bed, they were to sit down somewhere quiet with a mirror and to look into that mirror and have a conversation. And this is what the conversation was to be. How do I rate myself with regard to using the magic protocol? How did it feel when I allowed the magic protocol to take over? Did I have any conflict in using the magic protocol, and how did I overcome it? I don't have the feedback on that yet, but I'm going to go back now to the third woman. She's doing the magic protocol. On her own, she tells me that during the day, when she has these bouts of temptation, she not only uses the magic protocol, but each time she puts the candy in her mouth, she says to her child self, I'm glad you're coming along with me. Can you sense the feeling that I used to have returning? That I like myself for being in control. That I'm acting how I have to act to maintain control, but I have the backup because I know when I put the candy in my mouth, I cannot cheat. So where are we with this? Weight loss is psychological. Food is incredibly powerful because it gives us comfort, it gives us feelings of escape, but it also reminds us how warm and cozy and comfortable and safe it was when we were held and that breast or bottle was put in our mouths and we fell asleep. That feeling is there. It feels wonderful. And we can achieve it if we use the magic protocol. But you have to go one extra step. You have to verbalize your success. And you have to recognize and verbalize that when you give in to temptation, you're going to immediately go back to the magic protocol because it doesn't feel good to have guilt and remorse. Talk to you soon. Thanks for listening.